We have been talking about the coronavirus pandemic for quite some time, and today is the 10th day. Yesterday we talked about truth and the possibility of a global harmony. So today we will talk about grace, what grace means in our life and how to pray for that. So bring your palms together, set your intention for this practice, for this workshop, for this wellness satsang, an intention for yourself, your family members, for the world to be totally healthy, truly happy, and bringing in a stronger immune system, physical, mental, emotional, and at a spiritual level. So once you set your intention, try to create a feeling in your heart, a positive, a very profound feeling, as if it's already going to happen or it's already happening. And then we will raise our arms together, keep your hands up, palms open in a state of complete surrender. We'll chant 5 Ohms collectively to create a global harmony and download the cosmic energy that is very much required to protect this planet and all her inhabitants. Breathe in. Again, bring back both the palms together. Let's start with a small yogic prayer. Om Sahana Bhavatu, Sahanau Bhunaktu, Sahaviryam Karavavahai, Tejasvina Vaditamastu Ma Vidvisavahai. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. May the universe protect us all. May the universe nourish us all. May this wellness satsang be fruitful and enlightening for all of us. May there be no discord, no disharmony among each other. May there be peace. Om, peace, peace, peace. So friends, we need the grace. And in order to explain this concept of what is grace, let me just share a story that I heard a long time ago. This is the story of a small boy, 7 years old, and he finds an ashram and goes to the guru and then asks him, if you can promise me that one day you will give me an experience of samadhi, I'll join your ashram. You know, a small 7 years old boy, he knows how to negotiate. And the guru says, yes, of course, I'll do it. I'll do my best. And, just wanted to make sure that we set the right expectation. So it might take 12 years to get, like that's called one tap. One tap is called 12 years unit. Then the student said yes, that's fine, I can wait. So he meditated for 12 years as per the direction of the guru. And he didn't get the samadhi. 6 more years passed by. Still he didn't get samadhi. He was very diligent. He did whatever the teacher said. And he became 25 years old. No samadhi, no experience of enlightenment after such a long practice, with so much of dedication. And finally he got so frustrated about the whole experience, and he said that it's not going to work. I'm going to leave this place. I'm going to leave this world also. So he said to his guru that, enough is enough. You promised me to give me the samadhi, but finally nothing happened, and I'm going to drown myself in the river. So the Guru had a sense of subtle humor. He said, make sure that you tie a big rock on your back so that, you really get drowned properly. The boy got more angry and he immediately left. He started walking. And then after just a few minutes before he left the campus, the Guru called him, come. I was just kidding with you. I was just joking with you. So please come back. Okay, sit down. So he said that, okay, I'll go into chant a mantra and repeat after me. And he repeated a mantra for a few minutes. And after that, he just touched his forehead, his Agnya Chakra. And suddenly, the boy gets enlightened. He has an experience of samadhi. It was very ecstatic for him, something for the first time he had experienced. So after whatever time that he experienced that, he came back to his body consciousness again. He looked at his Guru and he said that, thank you for giving me the samadhi, but with this state of mind, I'm more confused right now. The Guru said, what is the confusion? I just gave you samadhi that you asked for. What's the confusion? He said that, look, I meditated for 18 long years. So I'm just wondering, is it because of my effort, my tapasya that I got this samadhi, or because of your tejas, your grace or your touch, the divine touch that you gave me? If it was my tapasya, 18 years of meditation, then why did you have to touch me to get that enlightenment? And if it came because of a single touch that you gave me, then why did you have me wait for 18 long years? I could have done something else. I could have got a little bit more faith on the whole system. And the Guru looks at him and says, this is why exactly I was not thinking that you were ready for this samadhi state. See, at this point of time also you are thinking about whether it's your tapasya or my tejas. None of these. Neither your tapasya nor my austerity gave you the grace, gave you the meditation or gave you the experience. It's only the grace of the divine, the Daivam, they call it. Without that you won't get this. See, this story is very profound because we always do a lot of things in our life. Many times we don't see the result that we expect, and it leads us to frustration. It leads us to a lot of frustration moment. We always try to, sometimes we become atheist. We don't believe in something that we used to believe. So if you look at the different ingredients of success, there are 5 different components, very important ones, are responsible for our total success. So first one is, what's your approach? What approach you take, what path you follow. From here to, let's say a temple, you have got one direction, whether you are going towards your goal or towards the place that you want to go, or you are going away from it. There could be many different paths around it. But that approach, what approach you're taking. The second thing is your mindset. What mindset you have. As you have already talked about earlier, the mindset plays a major role in experiencing life, in interpreting different things happens. Life is 10% what happens, 90% how we respond to it. So our mindset plays a very important role in bringing success to our life. And the third component is, of course, the resources that we have, the tools, techniques, the technology. All these things matter. If you want to go from here to India, from California to India, of course, you can't walk. You can't bike. You need to have enough resources. You need to have the flights or ability to go in the flight, then only you can go there. So your approach, your mindset, the resources, and of course your efforts. And finally, the grace. Without that, you won't be able to succeed in life. But that doesn't mean that you should not try out. Because everything that we do is an experience by itself. This journey itself is the reward, as yoga talks about. The destination is one thing, but the journey itself is the reward. So if we continuously do certain things in the right way, in the right perspective, with the right mindset, with the right approach, with the right resources, someday or other the grace will come. In this particular case, even though it's a funny story, but finally the grace came to him. He got realized, he got the experience. So let's reevaluate how the grace dawns into life in many different ways. You can think about one bright example of how the metamorphosis happens into the life of a caterpillar. Like a caterpillar, very ugly, slimy insect, and it goes to build a cocoon around itself. After several days of long struggle in that dark, slimy room inside, the struggle happens. And suddenly, one day, metamorphosis happens. The caterpillar comes out of the cocoon as a beautiful, vibrant butterfly with so much of colors on the skin and the strength on the wings to fly with freedom and joy. That's the grace. That's the grace of the divine that manifested in the beauty, the color, and the vibrancy of the butterfly. So think about, at this moment, we all are experiencing a difficult situation at a global level. So we have to reevaluate what's the approach we are taking, what's the mindset that we have, what's the resources we are using, what's the efforts we are using, and finally, are we praying enough time for the grace of the divine? Have we learned the lesson that is behind the whole thing that is happening? Are we ready to embark upon a new journey into our life as a truly responsible human being, responsible for many things? There are many aspects of these things we have already talked about. So are we ready for the grace? So that there is no question whether it's my effort or your effort. So friends, it has been a great experience of introspecting on different aspects of the yoga, Vedanta, the modern psychology, to give us new directions, to give us new ways to think things, particularly when we are facing this adversity. It reminds me of one Upanishad, Kat Upanishad. So Kat means the distress, difficulties. So Katha Upanishad talks about many different stories. The most important one is the story of Nachiketa, who happens to have an encounter with the god of death. It's a very interesting story. Let me just share a few salient points of that and then draw out certain imageries or certain images that is described, which is very contextual at the present context right now. So the story goes like Nachiketa was a small boy, just like 10 to 12 years old boy, and his dad's name was Vajasrava. So Vajasrava was doing a sacrificial performances like a yajna. So at the end of the yajna, you are supposed to give some dana or some dakshina to the Brahmins who participated in the sacrifice. And you are supposed to give the best of the things that you have. It's like you're giving gift to the god or the seekers, Brahmins. So after the yajna was performed, the rishi Vajasrava was giving all useless things, like all worn out cows who probably would not live more than a few days. They don't have any milk in their udder. By looking at this, a grace dawned onto the son Nachiketa, and he got the courage. He thought about it. This is not going to take my dad to heaven or to Vaikuntha. He's not going to get any dues for this sacrifice that he has made. So he approached his dad and then talked to him like, "No, Dad, this is not true. This is not real. This is not good, what you're doing." And the dad got angry at him. He again approached. He got angry. And finally, the son has the audacity to ask him, okay, dad, tell me, who are you going to give me to? Like, who are you going to give it? And then the dad got extremely angry at him. And he said that I am going to give you to the god of death, or to Yama. Basically, you go to death out of anger. And immediately his dad realized his mistake and then repented for it. But the kid was very adamant about it. He said, like, okay, you said that, I'm going to approach the god of death. So he marched towards the god of death. There are many different interpretations how he went and met the god of death. That's a different story. But he went to the abode of Lord Yama, and it looks like Yama was out on his tour to collect more souls. And he had to wait for 3 nights without food, without water, without sleep. So after 3 nights, Yama comes back, and then the guard rushes back to him and says, like, now, look, sir, a Brahmin boy has been waiting here for you for last 3 nights without any food, without any sleep. So please come and meet him as soon as possible. So immediately Yama rushed to him. And it is a great deal, because if somebody waits for you 3 nights, it's a difficult thing. It's a sin if you don't take care of that. So immediately Yama said, like, before anything, I would like to give you 3 boons to compensate for the 3 nights of sleepless nights that you have waited for me. Please ask me 3 boons. The first boon that Nachiketa asked to Yama is like, please give me or give my dad grace. Give him peace of mind. Give him calmness. Give him the true wisdom. And also make sure that when I go back to him, he receives me. So, that's a great, smart package, because he came to Lord of Death. He doesn't want to stay there. He wants to go back. And he sought for peace. He sought for grace. He sought for peace of mind for his dad. And that's the most important thing in our life, isn't it? So this itself talks about this moral of something which is very important to take away from this story, is something called Shreyas and something called Preyas. So Shreyas means something that you should be doing, something good for you. And Preyas means something pleasant, which may not be good. And always life offers opportunities for us to discriminate what is Shreyas and what is Preyas. And most of the time, we might be tempted to listen to the sense organs or sensory pleasures and take this path of Preyas rather than Shreyas. Right? Think about the classic example that teachers give is on a plate. If you think about one cupcake and an apple, like if you give it to a small child, a toddler, 4 or 5 years old child, obviously, like, he'll just look at the cupcake and then eat it right away. That's the Preyas thing for him. But for an adult, like, you might think about, like, what is good for me? Maybe you choose an apple than the cupcake. So that gives the analogy of, what is Shreyas and what is Preyas, what is good for you in a long term and what is pleasant for you in a short term. So if we become careful at any given point of time, you see, at one level or other, these choices have to be made in a profound way, in a diligent way. Otherwise, we'll be trapped into the path of Preyas-seeking mind rather than Shreyas-seeking intelligence. You have to make a choice. That's the first thing that we have to learn from this story. The second boon, he asked for, tell me that flame, that sacrifice through which human beings can conquer death and then enjoy life afterwards. What is that inner fire that you have to raise to get awakened? This is also a great question he asked for. He was a very sincere student. And Yama explained to him bit by bit, how to make these 3 layers of bricks and how to make the sacrificial fire ceremony. And then these are all metaphorical stories. And all these things also mean internal journey. The 3 bricks that talked about are our physical body, our vital body, and our mind. How you have to use these 3 resources or these 3 levels to go deeper, to enlighten the fire of knowledge. So he learned that. the whole concept of how to make this fire ceremony, and especially after death. So that is why, he learned it very diligently. He practiced it, whatever he said, and the Yama was very happy about it. And of course, he gave him 2 more grants of boons, sub gifts. He first said, this, you are so sincere a student, you have asked this internal fire, and I am going to name this fire. It's called Nachiketa fire, which is performed everywhere after people die. That is not the only time, but the true wise people, they lit this Nachiketa fire while they're alive also to get enlightened. So this is a beautiful narration of the whole story, how to perform this Nachiketa fire. And he got a beautiful necklace with a lot of gems and diamonds. And finally, the most important time is for the boon, third boon. So he said, the third boon, give me that true knowledge. What happens after death? Some people say the subtle body escapes and then it goes somewhere else and waits for somewhere else, or the subtle body doesn't go anywhere. So there's a lot of confusion between everybody's mind. What exactly happens after death? So tell me the truth of death. Then Yama said, there's a very, very deeper concept. Even the gods, so-called demigods, are very confused about it. And then, don't ask for that. You're not ready for that yet. He said, yes, I'm ready for that. Please give me that. And in fact, Yama went quite far to allure him on many different things. I'll give you horses, I'll give you elephants, I'll give you lands, I'll give you damsels, I'll give you all the wealth and luxuries of life. Ask for those. Why are you asking for death? The knowledge about death. He said, I'm already a king's son and I've got some of those already. And even if you give more of those, one day you will take them away. So that is not going to be permanent with me. It's all transitory. Again, the concept of Shreyas and Preyas, you see how he is so enlightened. And finally, he was so persistent that Yama had to give him the knowledge of death. And he explains the whole concept, how the journey of the soul and, things like that. That's a very deeper aspect. But in those narration, he talks about many different images, many different examples. That is very, very important in Kathopanishad. One of the great examples that I would like to cite today, he talks about a cart. Our life is more analogous to. So in this cart there are 10 horses and there are reins going through the horses, and somebody is holding the rein in the driver's seat and somebody is sitting in the back seat as the rider of the horse, and there is a path. So it's a metaphorical story. This whole story is about our body is like a cart, and the 10 horses represent our 5 sense organs, Gyanendriyas, and 5 action organs, the Karmendriyas. And the reins that passing through the horses are like the mind, and the person who is holding the rein is the intelligence. So that means if the mind is not able to do its job to control the sense organs, then the horses will go in 10 different directions and the cart of our life will not go in the right path that you have chosen. And the grace will never come to our life. So the mind has to control the sense organs. And how does he control? The intelligence has to give him the instructions. So the mind has to report to his boss, intelligence. But most of the time, because of the Preyas concept, the mind collaborates with the sense organs and gives us and takes us to different path by getting attracted to different objects. So all the different objects in our life are compared to the path that it is talked about here. That the worldly path, on different ways, we get distracted from the main course of our life. So the intelligence has to guide the mind about what is Shreyas, what is good for us. And how does the intelligence get the direction? From where? He gets the direction from the soul, who is the rider in the back seat. So the soul has to inspire the intelligence has to inspire the mind has to inspire the sense organs. Then only we can derive the right concept of what is Preyas and what is Shreyas and choose the right decision to move in the right way, with the right approach, with the right knowledge, with the right tools and techniques, with the right set of efforts, with the right mindset. And then of course, the grace will dawn onto our life. So friends, this is an important lesson that I wanted to share today. In addition to the truth that we have talked about, the global harmony that we have talked about, the grace is very important. One of the other concepts that I wanted to touch upon today is also, like, because of this coronavirus, there are so many people that we have not thought about. Life is so devastated, particularly in India right now. There is curfew, like people can't come out, and till April 14th, I think it's going to be there. Everybody's locked inside their house. And let's dedicate this practice of meditation and the prayer for all those people, for the daily workers, for the people who are helpers, and then hotel boys, restaurant workers, people who are rickshaw pullers, coolies and porters, and all these people who are small earners. Every day they have to depend on this, and if they are locked out, they will be very difficult. Even in fact here also the same concept, same thing. Like if you're locked down, all those people whose life is truly devastated. So let's dedicate our prayer towards them. So keep your eyes closed. Keep your focus in your heart center, Anahata Chakra, and think about the grace in the name of Prana Shakti, which is present in your heart. And as you breathe in and out, just repeat this mantra Prana Shakti 5 times while inhaling and 5 times while exhaling. And just suppose that this grace that is present in your heart is a very subtle light, something very light like the light of the dawn, and that is spreading around your body. So focusing on the heart as the grace, think about the Prana Shakti, and with every in-breath and out-breath, keep chanting few times in your mind and just stay there still. We'll practice for at least a minute right now. And in your home practice, please do it for at least 5 minutes, couple of times throughout the day. Coming back to the heart center, awareness again. Feel like that light is spread around the whole body. Every cell, every tissue in your body has been flooded with this grace. The divine grace is filling up our whole body and is spreading out from our body around to fill up the room that you're practicing meditation, or to the whole house that you're in, or wherever you are. Let that place be filled with this grace. And allow that graceful light to even move around through the walls, through the roof, to the neighborhood, to the sky, and mingle with the sunlight. And the sunlight is already connected to the lights of the universe coming from the stars, the galaxies, universes, multiverses, all those luminary objects, all those luminaries, personalities our ancestors, all their knowledge in the form of the grace is creating a blanket-like structure to the entire planet Earth and helping everyone, and especially all those people that we talked about today. The grace is dawning into their life, the daily wage workers, the small earners, the home helpers, all those people who need the most help right now. Let this grace be done. Let this grace be upon them. And it's a collective prayer that we're doing. Let the humanity evolve into a safer state of consciousness, into a rescued state of existence, so that we all can function better and take care of everything that is needed in this world, in this life, here and now. So with that, friends, bring your palms together in a state of samasthiti, a state of equanimity, a balanced state of mind, body and breath. Let's again complete this practice of meditation with a peace prayer. Sarvesham swastir bhavatu, Sarvesham shantir bhavatu, Sarvesham purnam bhavatu, Sarvesham mangalam bhavatu. Om Purnamidam Purnamadam Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.